All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. This is John Ruman with Dr. Harry Ramnarine. Tonight, we're going to talk about the God cells, the microbiome, and just to briefly introduce you to the system here, if this is your first time, you're going to see a chat window. The chat window is about talking about anything, feedback. Real quick, we have a lot of international people. I would love for the international people to say where you're from. We've had people all over the world in the past webinars we'd have, so I'd love to hear where you're from. With that, any questions you have that you want the general doctors in Ishtara to answer, and I'll go over that in just a second, those questions you can do in the main chat area if that's for them. If you want Dr. Harry to answer the question, there is a Q&A section as well. And what I will do, you're going to notice your questions disappearing and jumping to the Q&A section, okay? So I am going to disappear from this in just a moment, but let me briefly introduce Dr. Harry. I'll tell you briefly about me, and then we'll get started. So Dr. Harry Ramnarine founded Ishtara Center in 1993 and has had over 40 years of medical practice dealing with patients day to day. A couple years ago, he retired, and kind of coinciding a lot of that timing was actually a launch of a new building at Ishtara. It's a beautiful 3-center complex in Chagonis. If you have not been there, it's amazing. And when we're back in physical, we're able to interact with each other. In the 3rd story, they do workshops there. Ground level, they have all the doctors, and mid-level, they have other things happening, like Harry's office, an example. The practice is a very comprehensive, well-rounded, and deals in what's called vibrational medicine. Very, very powerful stuff. I've been a patient since I moved to Trinidad in 2015, and I absolutely love the practice. Very forward-thinking, and they focus on the solution of problems and the source of problems, which is really wonderful. So briefly, again, my name's John Ruman. I'll be hosting tonight. I'm a life and business coach, and I do a lot of stuff with this amazing team, and I'm happy to be here. But I'm going to be behind the scenes now. I'm going to disappear from your visual. I will not be available via audio very easily, and I'll be kind of helping on the technical side while Dr. Harry does what his magic is. So with that, guys, here we have Dr. Harry Ramnarine, and I will I'll be disappearing. So the stage is yours, Dr. Harry.
Hi, greetings to everybody, right? Back again, and it's so wonderful to be chatting with all of you people who are joining in even now. And I just want to say that it's been about 44 years that we graduated, and we celebrated with my colleagues from the year 1976. 44 years in practice. And that's interesting because if we all entered medical school around 1976, I think, sorry, 1971. And that adds up to a 9 year. And 9 is always very interesting. So all these guys who have graduated in 76, 5 years later, if you add 44 to 5, you get 49. And 49 equals 13. And 13 adds up to a 4. And the year 2020 is a 4. So that all these guys are very special. And I'm happy to be a part of that group. Starting in 1971 is the starting point, and number 9 year. And it means that every year, those guys who have graduated in 1976, we can add 5 years. So we have actually been in the medical profession for about 49 years. And every year since then, we are more in sync with space and time than every other year that comes up to a 9 as well. So that's interesting. So in my group of 76 graduates, what I've discovered is that over the years is that they have all excelled in so many areas, in very powerful areas. In fact, the head of PAHO right now is one of our colleagues, Dr. Carissa Etienne, and she is so busy right now, very busy, really probably 24 hours a day, working hard to deal with all the problems of the present pandemic, COVID-19. All right, so this particular webinar, we will kind of round off and touch on a lot of things. I have a lot of information to share with you. So if you have pen and pencil, you can probably have it available to write down some things. And the other thing is that what I want to do is kind of recap some of the things. You know, the first webinar, we talked about an energy It's very difficult to introduce new concepts, and it's always difficult when you have a new concept to get people to start thinking in a different way. So we talked about the dark energies, and we explained all of that in the first webinar, and in the near future you'll have access to that. So the dark energy, I've given it a name so that we don't have to refer to dark energies anymore. I've given it a name, so you can write that down as DX3. What it means is that the D is still the dark energy, and it's always related to three things. In the universe, everything is made up of three components: matter, energy, and information. And I've explained this in the first webinar, but I'll repeat some of it again now. So you start with a material, something that is material. So I might be holding up a little piece of stone here, and that's material. And it does have an energy component when you get to the atomic level. And if you go to the subatomic level, it's all about information. At the energy level, you're dealing with electrons and protons and so on, and you're looking at movement and spin. And when you get to the informational level, it's the structuring of quarks and electrons that is literally equivalent to information. So our universe, our bodies, we are all made up of matter, energy, and information. When we apply that to the physical body, we have a physical body, we have an energy system that runs and relates to the physical body. And then we have an informational field where all our data, all the information that we have stored, what we have brought from our ancestors, our parents, stored somewhere inside the cells at the genetic level, which gives us tendencies for things, good things, bad things, and ugly things. So that's the one aspect of it. And so the dark energy, we talked about that because we wanted to give a new way of understanding what is going on. And I will take this to the next level where we look at our immune system. In the modern era, starting from somewhere in the 20th century, most people, if you look at them in an energetic level and an informational level, we are all working with the immune system really being overworked. The immune system is constantly working 24 hours a day, and it is always overworked. It's on overdrive. And why that is so, the immune system has to cope with a lot more microbes in the environment than we ever had before. We have to cope with chemicals and everything we breathe in, everything we eat. We have so many chemicals. We have thousands of chemicals to deal with. And then we have what is called electrosmog. And electrosmog is all the information that is traversing the space, goes into our bodies, affect our cells, and whether we don't have to go into whether it's good or bad at this stage, because we know that all this information we didn't have, let's say, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. But now we are flooded with all this information bombarding our system, our cell membranes, the nucleus of the cells. And we tend to think that they're all okay, that's fine. Yes, we can adapt and we can evolve to the point where we can deal with it. But I'm going to show you today as well how we don't need to worry about 5G. We don't need to worry about the immune system being overworked, because our way of doing this, and teaching this new concept in these 3 webinars is ready to show you that the immune system can actually get to a place where there is very quiet. And right now in the medical field, our immune system is the most important thing. And that's the reason that is so is because the reason that it's so is it's all because our ability to produce DX3 is such a low level. It is suppressed. When I do investigations on people, and I will just introduce the concept of algorithms. I did talk about that in the second seminar. And an algorithm is basically a set of instructions designed to have a specific effect, whether it's in a biological system or maybe a non-biological system like a motor car, locking a door, putting on lights, and so on. That's what an algorithm is all about. But we have spent over the last 33 years, I think now, working with biological algorithms where we can influence the informational aspect of ourselves. And I think now for over 30 years, I would say more like 32, 33 years, we've been using algorithms to treat all our patients. It's all called informational medicine, and they come from algorithms. Now, you might be aware that in the modern world now, we have algorithms used for even, let's say, testing your heart rate. You have an algorithm actually for checking blood pressure now. You have algorithms for also looking at your ECG, and you can now do an ECG. We may not be at a really perfect level yet, but we are on the way. And so algorithms are around. And in the near future, I'm also thinking that algorithms will be used for diagnosing cancer. Right now, the only positive way of diagnosing a cancer in the body is by histology, or you can say the pathology. But in the near future, I'm certain that we're going to be using algorithms to diagnose cancer very accurately. So algorithms are very important, and we have been in the forefront of using biological algorithms for the last 30 plus years. And we've been writing these and testing them over hundreds of patients over the years. And so we are well into that. And today, every single day, we look at algorithms and how it can influence the space, it can influence the human body, the biological system, and how it can influence as well now non-biological systems too. So that's another area. So the algorithms in use today actually is what we are actually going to be talking a little bit about in the webinar. So going back to a microbiome, and so that's dark energies, and dark energies actually, when we start to produce that dark energy, and we spoke about that in the first webinar too, it is all about activating the cells. And I'm going to give you an idea. Our body is designed to last about 140 plus years. And today we are probably doing just over half of that. Our cells now, it's in the Chinese concept, Jing tends to run out around that time. But can we enhance Jing? And we can enhance Jing. We can enhance dark energies. And if we enhance dark energies, the cells can have an infinite amount, or the body can have an infinite amount of time on this planet, meaning that you can live a much longer life as well. And we will discuss that a little bit more detail as we go along. Dark energy is very important because I will tell you, cancer cells in the future, when you form one cancer cell in your body and a few cancer cells coming from that as the cells divide, if you have enough dark energies, cancer cell will apoptose, meaning break down back into microbiomes. Viruses, bacteria, parasites, all these abnormal microorganisms will actually break down in dark energies. But over the last few years, in the last 3-4 years that I've been testing people and looking at dark energy, we have found that most people have a level under 4 out of 10. So when I use a scale from 0 to 10, most people are below 4. Those who have been doing a lot of work on themselves, practicing yoga and qigong and tai chi and meditation and so on, these too have not risen above 4 out of 10. I was quite surprised with that. And I realized that most of the techniques that we've been practicing would give us an extra 2 points of dark energy, because the average in people, especially sick people, is all about 2 out of 10 or 1 out of 10. So that's extremely low. Something is not right about the way we have been going about things. And what I mean by that, maybe the information has been suppressed. Maybe the information has been hidden from the masses. Today, what we are trying to do is to teach everyone how to enhance dark energies. And I would just go ahead and say that if you can reduce your breath to 3 breaths a minute, you start to produce dark energies. When you go to 2 breaths a minute, you are actually in a meditative state. You can go deeper into meditation when you go to 1.5 breaths a minute, or even 1 breath a minute. You actually simulate meditation. So you don't even have to sit and close your eyes. You get exactly the same thing. So the other thing is that with dark energies, we're going to have a situation where you can extend life. The other type of cell that you have in your body, apart from the cells that we come here with, starting from one cell, half genetically from mom and half from dad, those cells generate light, and they also generate dark energies. But the amount of light they generate has a lot to do with the lifespan, the health. And that fuels or pushes the immune or drives the immune system to function. So we can have a pretty long life. But in the modern world, we have to deal with so much that the immune system is really overworked. That's the reason we have so much autoimmune diseases and so much inflammatory diseases. Because once your immune system is fighting something, then we create inflammation. And the more the immune system is fighting, we constantly have inflammation. How to get rid of inflammation? Then we switch. We will have to switch in the near future to what is considered to be dark energy, DX3. When we do that, the immune system settles down to a very low level of activity. And then when that happens, inflammation will reduce. You don't have to fight and destroy a virus, a bacteria, a cancer cell, the dark energies will actually cause these cells to break down and revert back to healthy microbiome. So let me just describe or identify, and maybe tell you what a microbiome is. It's a set of microorganisms and their genetic material in specified areas or specific areas of the body. So we're talking about microorganisms, we're talking about genetic material, and we're talking about in specific areas. So I would say to you that these microbiome, they are quite interesting. I call them, many years ago, the God cells. They're separate from your body cells. Now, let us look at two sets of cells existing in your body. Your physical body cells, which come from the first cell that you have had in your mother's womb, and then that's dividing rapidly and created a human body. Then you have also microbiome. These microbiomes actually can manifest from the informational level, which is in space. They can get into your body, and we come here with a full complement of microbiomes in the system. These microbiomes have genetic material. They have the word microbiome means micro, small, bio, life, and the OME is genetic material, the genome. So they range from nanoparticle size to bacterial size. And these microbiomes actually exist everywhere in your body. And we will talk about that. How did we come to all of this information? Well, I've been doing quite a lot of research, testing patients, looking at all the patients that come in. We have created algorithms to actually identify the microbiomes. And we will come back in a short while to that. So microbiomes now, they have the capacity to generate enormous amount of dark energies. Whereas your body cells have the capacity to generate a small amount of dark energies, but mainly light. And light can come from the outside by eating food, because food comes from all the foods that we have on the planet, whether they're plants or animals, they all come from the sunlight, and it's a big source of light. So we gain a lot of light coming from the outside, and we can store that by way of digestion of food and then creating energies through the various biochemical reactions in the body. And eventually we store them in the mitochondria. Interestingly, as we get older, we get less and less mitochondria. They get smaller and smaller, and then we get less and less. So our capacity to store energy gets less and less as we get older. And also the function of the mitochondria, they get smaller and smaller, and they literally atrophy. And so they don't function. So as we get older, we have less and less storage and less ability to even generate energies. Even the digestive system gets bad. So what is the solution? Where is the solution coming from? And the interesting thing is actually the microbiome. We come back to that. So now we'll define the areas. In my own work, testing maybe for many years, we have identified 5 key areas of microbiome. And the gut comes under that. So the first area is the CSF in the brain, the cerebrospinal fluid in the brain. The second area is the lymphatic system, which exists everywhere. In between all cells in your body, there's a fluid space, and that's the lymphatic space or the tissue fluid space. And so you have microbiome everywhere in the lymph. Then in your blood, you have microbiome as well. Also in the bile system and also the bone marrow. So you have 5 areas of microbiome there. And the gut, which includes the stomach, the entire gut, from the esophagus or the throat, the mouth, and all the way down, you have the gut microbiome. We have been talking too much about the gut microbiome because that's easy to have access to those microbiome, and people have investigated that thoroughly. But I'm going to let you know tonight that that's down at the bottom level, the bottom of the ladder. It is the 5 microbiomes I've just described actually engage with awareness and consciousness. And they are influenced by the informational field in your system. And when the microbiome is influenced by the informational field, they then download. They're influenced by the vagus nerve and other nerves to the autonomic nerve, other parts of the autonomic nervous system, which then influence the microbiome in other parts of the body, especially the gut. We all have heard before that death starts in the gut. And I will tell you, that if you want to know, we have, John, can you put up the slides there for us as well? So, let's see if I can negotiate some of this here. I'm going to just show you some slides here. All right. So this is just going back a bit to give you an idea. This is a slide showing the essence of fire, and this is something that we created. It belongs to the work that we do, and is essentially pouring the essence of fire on the earth to transform the earth, meaning everything on the earth, including human beings. The next one here, I just want to show you a galaxy. It is very tough for us to get a photograph of the Milky Way galaxy because we are sitting in the Milky Way galaxy, and it's hard to do a selfie. But sometime in the future, we might be able to do a selfie of the galaxy. But this is the Andromeda galaxy, and you notice that I'm swinging this around here. You have a core element, and the core element is surrounded by all the other elements in the periodic table. And this is the periodic table here carrying all the elements in nature and the universe. And so you have a core element, and this core element is surrounded by all the other elements. I just want you to start thinking that everything on the planet, whether it's a tree, a human being, an animal, a bird, a bee, or an ant, everything is like a galaxy with a core element. I've said before that we have tested human beings, and we found that the core element in human beings, all of us, is gold. And gold means simply intelligence. We have the capacity for intelligence. Whether we are going to develop that intelligence and use it and let it become a part of our lives, that's another story. So just to refresh your mind on that, and that's the periodic table, which we'll come back to sometime. So here's another one, which is a photo taken in Grenada with the setting sun. But I want to show you this photograph, which I was able to capture after many years of trial, of a photon generator. And this is actually light. It's just like the sun. I'll go back to so that you can have a quick look at it. It's the same here as what you're seeing. So this is 93 million miles away. This one is just about probably 4 or 5 inches away from the photon generator. It's perfect description of what photons are like. Photon is the smallest particle of light. So here you have dark energies at your cellular level. So your cells have a limited capacity for creating dark energies. So where most of the dark energies come from is the microbiome. And we come back to that. So light comes out of the dark energies. Actually, if you think of the sun has a huge zone of dark energies and from that, light is coming out. You remember there's a famous holy book which says, and God said, let there be light. So it means that light came out of something else, and that is the darkness. So we'll leave that for a little bit. So now the next thing that we're going to look at is light or your cells have a limited lifespan. But how can we change that in the modern world? How can we change that in the 21st century? And I think today, 2020, and even though we have COVID, all of it is geared at helping us to turn within, helping us to go within ourselves and discover what this dark energy is about and start to activate this dark energy. And when you start to activate the dark energies, you realize it starts to transform your life. Your whole body is going to be transformed within a couple of years from now, a few years from now. And so even 5G, and anyone who is concerned about 5G, you will be able to deal with 5G, 4G, and all the others, because once you produce enough dark energy, all these energies will actually swing into a positive direction, meaning that we want to lift our lives to higher vibrational levels. So isn't it interesting that we go from all these lower forms of Gs, 1G, 2G, and we are heading to 5G and maybe 6G in the future. And what we're doing is increasing the vibrational level. Now, obviously, it is going to impact on us in a negative way at the beginning. But if you have enough dark energies, you are going to move with the flow, and you're going to lift your vibrational level to a higher higher frequency level. And so that would assist us in the end of the day. For those who do not have enough dark energy, it will be detrimental. It may have negative impacts on your health, but that's not the topic of this webinar right now. So we will deal with that in the future. But I'm just saying to you at the moment, all of you, that you do not have to worry about 5G once you start producing dark energies. Now, let's just take that off a little bit. Get back. So you can take that off a little bit now, John. So let's get back to the 5 areas of the microbiome, the God cells. The first area that I want to talk about is the lymph system. And the lymphatic system is a huge system, very large system in the entire body. You can imagine all the cells that you are made up of. You have about, on average, I would use the average of 60 trillion cells. And if you compare the amount of microbiomes you have, it's about 10 times that. So if I use 60 trillion, you have over 600 trillion microbiomes. So guess what? Who's running our bodies right now? The option is the microbiome, as long as we start to activate the microbiome in the right direction. Now, microbiome can actually change within the system into bacteria, into single-cell parasites, into fungus, into candida, into cancer cells, all of these things. Microbiome can move into that. It's one of the theories that I have, and I feel still convinced that cancer does not come from your body cells. It comes from the microbiome within the tissues, in the lymph, in the same organ where the cancer is. What I mean by that is if you have a breast cancer, it's within the lymph, and it's the microbiome within the lymph. Interestingly, I think it's the Cleveland Clinic for Cancer Research actually came out with this essay about 2-3 years ago. And but they've said they found the cause of breast cancer, and it is the microbiome in the breast. And then suddenly it went off, and nobody knew what has happened since then. So they've taken that information out. But it's my research. I have found that when we find cancer cells in the body using algorithms, then what we are actually looking at is the microbiome that has morphed into a cancer cell. And if we are at the stage where you have small amount of cancer cells, you can actually, through the dark energy, stimulate those cancer cells and move them back into microbiome. Now, microbiome can move in a positive direction, meaning that they can form friendly bacteria that they actually work for you. And friendly bacteria can produce proteins, they can produce essential fatty acids. The friendly bacteria can produce vitamins, minerals, all kinds of stuff. They can actually feed you. There's a saying that if you feed your microbiome, the microbiome can feed you. And all comes from the dark energies too. So microbiome can also create mitochondria as well. They can actually enhance mitochondrial growth within the cells, because remember that microbiomes are nanoparticle size. They can slip into cells and they can morph into mitochondria. And so you can have more mitochondria per cell, therefore storage capacity is increased. Mitochondria can be much better functioning, so therefore they can actually store and provide more energy throughout the 24-hour period. They can also morph into other types of cells, like, for instance, more immune cells. So immune cells don't have to travel through the blood and get anywhere in your body. They actually can happen on the spot, right? Just information. The information goes and it happens. When you get an injury, immediately we tend to think in the old days that your cells are coming in from the blood. But it's the microbiome within the lymph system, they're actually changing rapidly into cells that, like immune cells, white cells, and so on, and they create an inflammatory response, and they start the healing process. That's what is happening. So it's a different way of thinking. We're living in the 21st century, and the medicine is going to change eventually. I'm just starting the discussion or the talk about it, but eventually the medical profession will find it, and they will eventually move with it, and I will be a happier person then. So they can, apart from the immune cells, mitochondria, friendly bacteria, they can actually also morph into other types of cells that can help us in terms of, a greater health. They can replace new cells. So we're talking about stem cells. We don't have to inject stem cells into our bodies. If we know how to generate dark energies, the dark energies, if let's assume someone has been drinking alcohol for a while or maybe got a virus, hepatitis B, and you damage a lot of liver cells, and you have, because there's no dark energy, you're going to form fat in the liver, and therefore you have fat degeneration in your liver eventually. Now, in that situation, if you have enough dark energy, what's going to happen? All these fat cells are going to break down, and the microbiome within the liver, will, in the bile system, they would actually morph into new liver cells and replace liver cells. So here, can you imagine now? Think for yourself. All your structure in your body could be constantly being renewed with microbiome if we know how to activate the microbiome. They have been sleeping for generations and generations and generations, for thousands of years. They've been asleep, functioning at way below 20% in most human beings. And so, in the very few people who have been doing other things, like, for instance, Qigong, yoga, meditation in different forms, in different religion, they are a little bit higher, 1 or 2 points more, but yet that's not enough to change the body. So what are we talking about? Can we remove this program of disease, degeneration, and death, which I spoke about, 3Ds? That's the program that is running our bodies, running the universe. Is the program in charge. We would think that God is in charge, but no, we human beings have created and accepted a program. And I tell you what, we have accepted that program. For 30-something years, I've asked people, do you think we'll all die one day? And everybody says, yes. If you think that way, it's going to happen. Whatever you think, whatever is in the informational field, if you think 3Ds, disease, degeneration, and death, which means that we'll all get disease somewhere, we'll all degenerate, get old, and we'll all die, guess what will happen? The microbiomes are listening, they're listening to your thoughts, listening to the informational field, and are following instructions to the T. And guess what happens? The body ages and we die. And we accept that. What I'm putting across to all of you guys listening to this webinar is that there's another way. There's an opening. 2020 has brought an opening. I'll call it COVID-19. It's created an opening and opened a door for us. And it is now bringing the concept of how to survive in the future with pandemics, how to survive with epidemics. It's another way. It's the old way is going to run for a little while, and they will fight to keep the old way going. But the new way has started, 2020. It's a 4-year, it's a beginning. And that new way is about how we enhance the microbiome, how we awaken the microbiome in our bodies. I'm going to leave that for a while and talk a little bit about 3 things. So this is a human body. And there are 3 components I want to talk to you a little bit about, and so you can get some better ideas. And I'll come back to the microbiome. We're not finished with that yet. The first thing that we need to understand and need to practice, and I'm going to ask all of you to commit yourself to practice to develop peace and serenity, or to be calm and serene under all conditions. Start practicing today, tonight. And when you are challenged, stay put with peace and serenity. Practice. It will take you years to get there, but when you get there, you would have achieved something powerful. Remember, Tesla made a statement that if you know 3, 6, and 9, you're connected to the universe. That's all you need to do. I'll tell you what 3, 6, and 9 is. Number 3, and we're not talking numerology. Everything has significance. The number 3 represents how many angles? 1, 2, 3 angles. If you draw 3, you will see that it has 3 angles. If you draw it in a straight line, not curves. That's interesting because the number 3 is related to peace and serenity under all conditions. Now, I know I'm not asking you to go and meditate on 3. All I'm asking you to do is to sit and also think about it. And when it has become part of your psyche, your subconscious, go out there and live your life in such a way that you carry peace and serenity under all conditions. So when if you're facing the worst crisis in your life, you're not going to be fearful. You're not going to lose your cool. You're going to be peaceful and serene. That's the beginning point. That's the starting point. You cannot get to be spiritual. If you tell me that you are practicing something and some method and you are spiritual, whether it is through prayer, meditation, or whatever you do in your own life, and something happens and you get fearful, I tell you what, you disconnect from the source. So I'm going to teach you today the 3 things that you need to do to actually connect back to the source. And the first step is to practice peace and serenity under all conditions. If you prefer to be calm and serene under all conditions, it's the same. It's just a matter of the choice of words here. So that's the beginning. And when you do that, you start to produce dark energies as well. It's so simple. But I tell you what, you have a number of years ahead of you to get there. There's no need to rush. There's no need to stress yourself to make it happen tomorrow. You would need time to be also trained, and the universe will train you by giving you situations that you could practice, by throwing things at you, and then you practice. But remember, peace and serenity under all conditions. The next step is the activation of the pituitary gland, the master gland. So John, can you now put up the slides for me? And we will show those last few slides. So now this is your spinal column. And I want to remind some of you, and some of you have been around me for a little bit, you already know these slides. So here's the spinal column, and you have the sacrum. I want to stress a little bit about the sacrum. It is called the sacrum because it is the most sacred bone in your body. We found that the sacrum is the only bone in your body, well, not the only one, it's the most important one, but it has more quartz in it, silica. And the silica in it is, so we can call this quartzite when you have calcium and other minerals together with a fair amount of silica. And this sacrum that I'm circling here is extremely important. 99% of the people in the world who are not producing dark energies, this sacral bone is tilted inwards, tilted in. So we are living our lives, sleeping, sitting, standing, moving, running, and so on, with that bone tilted inward. When that bone is tilted inward, that is towards the pelvic area, you have very little dark energies produced. So I'm going to tell you now that you have 3 exercises that you can do. The first exercise, I guess if John could come in and just remind us about the first one of those 3 exercises, and it will take you some time to get that bone out, but you have to practice. When you sit right. So you have to sit. If you are sitting right now, all of you, I want you to get off the back of the chair, and John is going to go ahead and show us the exercise.
Do you want me to do it standing or do it seated, Harry?
No, do it standing. Okay. And we have shown this before. You did this before.
Lock your fingers, reach them up over your head, and you're going to gently, and I'll show you from the floor perspective, you're going to gently pound your heels into the ground. So hands are high, and then you gently pound your heels.
Towards the toes and down on your heels again. So, yeah. So you keep that stretch, and the only area moving is your ankles going up and down, up and down. If you do that every day, I would start with about 20, 30, whatever you can start with, and slowly increasing, And as you continue to do that, gradually what will happen is that sacral bone will naturally get out, start tilting backwards. When that happens, something powerful and magical happens in your body. The sacral bone now starts to generate a powerful energy that flows upwards your spine. So if you look at the other slide here that I have already there, the energy is moving up the spine, which influences every vertebra in your body, all the chakra system, the energy centers, the meridians, and is heading towards where? To the skull. So that's the sacral bone, if you want to know a little bit more about it. And it moves up in this area now, and I'm sure you could see that. And the second most important bone in the human body is this that I'm circling here, called the sphenoid bone. And you see there's a little cave in there, a beautiful cave hidden in there. That's where the pituitary gland is located. It's inside a little cave, right? So I'm just looking at my time. Yes, so it's in a cave. Now you want to activate that pituitary gland. So now, how do you activate the pituitary gland? So as you sit, like I'm sitting here right now, I'm pushing the sacral bone out, and I'm sitting. If I'm sitting right, I should be breathing only through my stomach, through the belly breathing. All right? So if you want, you could try it out doing yourself right now. And while that is happening, the energies are moving up towards that area. I call this the altar. This sphenoid bone is called the altar. It's interesting because it is the one bone in the skull that connects to every other skull bone. To the frontal bone, the occipital bone at the back, which goes backwards, the parietal bone, the temporal bone, all the bones in the skull is connected to that. Isn't it amazing? And when that is connected, then it is a powerful effect. Now, in the ordinary human being, the pituitary gland is functioning, but it's functioning at a very low level, low efficiency level. When dark energy starts to come up from the spine because of posture only, so all you need to do is sit quietly in that position. And now the energies are moving up. Sometimes people will take your tongue and touch at the roof of the mouth just to direct the energies further up. So let's look at the next slide. And I'm going to show you something interesting, because this is the what I call the spiritual physiology of the body. So the energies are now coming up. And you know where you're heading to? I'm circling this. There's a cave here filled with fluid, cerebrospinal fluid. It's called the third ventricle in anatomy, the third ventricle. So it comes into that cave. And as the energy moves up into that region, it is drawing from the cosmos, from the quantum field, in a multi-dimensional way, not in a linear fashion only. We tend to think only in linear fashion, that it moves downwards. And so the energies of the cosmos, the entire cosmos, this just depends on your capacity to receive. It moves downwards. And both energies, the energies from within, from the sacral rising up, and the energies from the entire cosmos moving down in a multidimensional way. And they meet. And these energies just don't move in a linear fashion. They're swirling. Both sides, both from below and from above, as above, so below. And they enter into this zone. And guess what happens? In that zone, your cerebrospinal fluid is being transformed slowly, step by step, with each sitting that you sit. All right? And that is how we are changing our consciousness. So it starts with the sacrum. The energy is moving up slowly. And as it moves up slowly, if you feel, you could take the tongue and touch it at the roof of the mouth, go as far back as possible. And you hold it there if you feel comfortable. But if you don't, just allow it. It will still flow. Then it draws the other. So in the previous slide, I call this the altar in the human temple. And sitting on top of the altar is the master gland that I'm circling on this thing here. It's sitting there. There's a membrane called the cellar turcicle. It's called cellar turcicle, means a Turkish saddle. And the pituitary gland is inside that cave. When the pituitary gland is activated, slowly, step by step, it's going to take time. It's not going to happen tomorrow or next month. You're going to become a genius. If you want to become a genius, then in your life, energy, you have to allow a certain amount of energies from the sacral bone to move up the spine. You see, the world is run today where most of the energies that we have are dissipated at the sex center. And because we dissipate all of it there, very little goes up into the brain zone. So whatever you're practicing, just practice everything in moderation, but have a knowing that you can sit quietly and move energies up quietly by doing very little, peace and calm. And when you're in a peaceful state, you will get to a point where the pituitary gland is activated. When that happens, the third factor comes into the picture. The third factor is that, and this is number 6. 6 refers to the pituitary gland. As above, so below. You know, you have 2 triangles forming 6 sides and 2 triangles up and down. So the third one is simply meditation. So you can choose to meditate. That's number 9. That's meditation. And number 9 is connected to something else. It's connected to what I consider to be your crown chakra. For all those who are not familiar with the chakras, if you look at drawings of saints, people who have achieved that state of consciousness, you will see a halo above the head. It's the only chakra that is outside of the body. And actually in meditation, we activate that chakra, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about 2 things that I can share with you and you can use from now on in your life. So meditation will get you there. Slowing down your breathing, sitting in this position as well, with the sacral bone out, and that's sitting in the quiet. You bring 3, 6, and 9 into your life. Now, what is happening with all of that? If the pituitary gland is functioning optimally, if you're in a peaceful state, that is, you have activated the state of peace and serenity, that equals number 3. 6 equals the pituitary gland, and 9 is meditation. You're activating the crown chakra. And when you activate the crown chakra, guess what is happening? More and more energies come down. And I said before, we are moving from Homo sapiens to Homo deus. And these are the simple techniques. These are the techniques, if you practice, you will get there. It is not rocket science. It is not difficult. It just takes time. But you have a long time to get there. So there's no rush. Don't make it happen. Don't try to make it happen next month or next year. Enjoy life as you continue to grow, to become one with the source itself. So now I'm going to give you a bit of some hints. We investigated what happens at death, why people die. And we found that in the periodic table, there's an element called arsenic. Arsenic. It's a poison. If you get a lot of it, it will kill you. But if you don't have arsenic in a tiny, tiny, tiny dose, you will die. And so if we don't produce enough arsenic in your body, then death comes. And when death comes, the arsenic level is fallen very, very low. Now, I'm not telling you to go and get arsenic and swallow it. That's poisonous. So here I'm going to introduce the concept that I tried to explain in the last webinar about spin. Now, if you take a spinner, any spinner, whether it's a top or any spinner that you can get, you have a right spin, that is called dextro rotation, and you have a left spin, which is anti-clockwise or counterclockwise. So one is clockwise, which is right spin. Counterclockwise, anti-clockwise is left spin. So you have two spins, okay? I'm going to tell you that all spin that is right is considered pathological. And therefore, they come into the region of poisons, and they come in the regions of medicines like drugs and medicines like homeopathy and so on. Left spin is all food. All herbs, all plants, they're all minerals, they're all left spin, and they're actually nourishing to the body. Then there's zero spin, when there's no spin at all, and that is meditation. It's meditation. And then that's when you're in sync with the source itself. So now somebody asked about taking, let's say, turmeric, which can be used to prevent cancer. If you take turmeric as a food, I'll tell you what, it is left spin, it's food, it's nourishment. Turmeric has a whole lot of nutrients in it. I would use turmeric every day, a level teaspoon of turmeric in some form, in some way, every day, whether it's in a smoothie, in a drink, whatever. And you don't have to buy expensive stuff. You just get the powder and use a level teaspoon. Now, when you take turmeric, if your gut bacteria, your gut flora, they are not functioning well, it's going to continue to be like food. But if your gut bacteria, the microbiome, is functioning efficiently, it will convert that into left spin and also create medicines in your gut. Everybody got that? So some food can become your medicine. So when people said before, let food be your medicine, in the modern world, that will not happen, because our gut flora, if you look at this, I have a survey of looking at over 500-600 patients in the past. When we measured the health of the gut flora using the algorithms that we use, they were all under 4, which means our gut flora is leading us to death, the degeneration, disease, and death. That's what it is. But if your gut flora is healthy, then you will start to convert food also, not all of it, but some of it, into medicine. And medicine can be very powerful. So in your gut, if your gut flora is healthy, and if you can get it healthy by the techniques that we are talking about, then you can actually have both food and medicine. Food can be a medicine. So all the food that we eat can be converted into a right spin and become medicines as well in the gut. So that's one point. Now, we're talking about arsenic. And the reason I brought it back up, left spin and right spin, is that all homeopathic medicines are right spin. And that's why the principle of homeopathy is similia similibus curantur. You have a disease X, you give X, and the two work together and they cancel each other. And that's how homeopathy works. Simple. Drugs are also right spin, and they are pathological, but they are material, whereas homeopathy is not material. That's the difficulty of modern medicine, 20th century medicine, have in accepting homeopathy. For those who practice, they know it works. But you would hear all the theories that they have debunked this whole principle that homeopathy can work. But you see, if we bring quantum science into this concept, then we'll understand that homeopathic medicine is information and vibrational medicine. If you divide the atom, piece of material, and you keep dividing it and get to the informational level or the vibrational level, you can say there are no molecules in the stuff. Yes, there are no molecules. You're at the informational level, but it doesn't mean that you don't have the information of the stuff that you started with. So in the modern world and the quantum field and the quantum theories will bring homeopathy back into the 21st century. I can assure you that is going to happen. So arsenic is required and a small, very minute dose, diluted to the point where you have no physical molecule, but you have information. And now I'm going to give you a bit of information. You can take 1 dose of arsenic every month on the day of new moon, and you can help to push away disease, degeneration, and death. You can help to eradicate it. You don't need more than that, just 1 dose. You can get those available at the center, or maybe you could get it anywhere in the world. You can buy above 200 C, maybe 1 M, or maybe if you buy in the LM potency, like a 30 LM. Just 1 dose on the day of full moon. Now, you have a few days to deal with. The day before full moon, new moon. I think yesterday was new moon, I believe. I'm not sure. I think it might have been. So the day before the new moon, and the day after. So you have 3 days in which you can take the dose. Ideally, on the day of the new moon, every month, 1 dose only. And that way, you could actually help to remove the program of disease, degeneration, and death. So that's 1 tip. Another tip, mercury. Mercury is a poison in a physical form, but the homeopathic of mercury could help to remove blockages in the body. And mercury works at the the brow chakra. So again, if you take a homeopathic dose of mercury once a month, but this time is at the full moon, you can activate this chakra, which helps with your intuition, which would help you to become more aware. So those are the tips that I want to share with you. There's another tip, which actually the crown chakra can be activated by an element called osmium. And I just want to mention, because it's not something that you can take in, you have to get to the informational level. And so maybe about a year ago, by the request of quite a number of our patients, we created a technology which we call Lifetrons. And it's in the form of a piece of glass, 1/2 inch thick. And we have actually, using alchemy, converted the silica in the glass to osmium. So when you stand on a plate like this, you are actually literally creating meditational energies entering into your body as you stand on the plate. And we have a number of people who are already using that and are doing so much better with their lives. So that's what is called a Lifetron. It is nothing but osmium. The plate has been converted by our technology into osmium, so it behaves 100% like osmium at the informational level. So when you stand on that plate, what you're doing is you're creating the same effect as meditation. That is, you're opening up the crown chakra, which is related to pi, the symbol of pi, 3.14159, so on. And that is what connects you to the source. So the 3 levels that I've spoken about is, first level is peace and serenity. The second level is the pituitary gland, which you use. And I will tell you, you can activate the pituitary gland with frankincense as well. So take note of that. A little bit of frankincense. The general thinking is that nobody likes to tell somebody, take it orally, right? So you can just apply it to your skin. Let's say a drop from time to time. You activate that pineal gland. If you want to activate the crown chakra, it is exactly what we have said just a while ago. We have a plate for it, osmium. You can also meditate on your own as well. That's number 9. And I am looking here at something. There's a herb that you can use to help the peace and serenity. It's the holy basil. I know there are other herbs, but in our country here, we have access to what is called tulsi, Tulsi. It's the holy basil. And it is available everywhere in the West now. And that is a very useful herb. We use the flowers mainly, but you can also use the leaves as well as the flowers. And that helps with the stillness and the peace and so on. All right. So let's go back to the microbiome. You can activate the microbiome in your body using dark energies. All the microbiomes in the body can be activated by dark energies. And so what we're going to do is, John, you come back on and we'll demonstrate the other two exercises. So we want to give you enough information that you can start practicing and transform and change your life. Huh? Right. So John, what we need now is actually the exercise number 2.
Yep.
And it's the rune Ingus, if you know the book of runes.
Cross
and you're
your arms
crossing
and elbows.
and you're crossing your knees.
Crossing my knees and my legs at my knees. Can't see that, but crossing my arms here at my elbows, and then look up.
And you're breathing in and out. If you're standing right, you will notice that you are breathing from your belly, your diaphragm as well, and you generate dark energies in this. So maybe once or twice for the day, you do about 5 breaths with this position. So you're crossing your legs at your knees and crossing your arms at your elbow, and then you're looking up, as John was just demonstrating.
5 breaths, right? 5 breaths, Harry?
Yeah, you do 5 breaths.
Okay.
And then the third exercise is a very spiritual one. This is equivalent to meditation. So John will demonstrate that, and I will probably explain to you. So John, what you will be doing is...
Okay. Do I do both sides or just the in here?
No, we can do both, in and out.
Okay.
So you're standing like this with your hands up in the air. And right. And then you're turning it in towards you and you're breathing in. And while you're breathing in, you're imagining that the whole universe is becoming you as you're breathing in. Then you hold your breath, you turn the hands outwards towards the universe, and you're breathing it out through your mouth like, and you're imagining that you are disappearing into the universe. And you continue that process of the universe becoming you and you becoming the universe. The universe is God, if you'll prefer that word. So God is becoming you and you are becoming God. We ultimately will get to Homo Deus. We ultimately get to becoming one with the source, the Father, the God, or whatever it is. So those are the 3 exercises. We will actually do, maybe sometime in the distant future or sometime in the future, do a webinar with actual only techniques, nothing but techniques. All right. Okay, so let's go back quickly. We have just a few minutes left, but let's go back quickly to the microbiome because I need to finish some things there. So the lymph microbiome is controlled by the kidney function, and that deals with, it is activated by the taste sour things. All right, sour taste. The blood microbiome is controlled by the heart. So the blood vessels and blood is controlled by the heart, and that is the pungent taste. And the pungent taste is like garlic and ginger and pepper, cayenne pepper. Whereas the sour taste, a simple sour thing would be like apple cider vinegar, all right? And the bile microbiome, the biliary tract microbiome, is controlled by the liver. So these are the 5 yin organs in Chinese medicine as well. And that is controlled by actually the bitter foods, any bitter food that you have available. Things like dandelion is bitter in the northern regions of the earth. In Trinidad, here we have something, a very bitter herb. It's written in Dr. Duke Green Pharmacy as jackass bitters. That's what he called it, unfortunately or unfortunately. And it's a very bitter herb. It's available in Trinidad. And the next one is the CSF and the brain, and that's controlled by the lungs. And that is actually activated by salty things. And by salt, I don't mean refined salt. Never use refined salt, never use refined sugars. Use actually either rock salt or good quality sea salt. And then you have the spleen, the bone marrow controlled by the spleen, and that's the sweet taste as well. So sometimes you can actually combine things to help the microbiome. Like for instance, if you take some apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon, you add some salt, rock salt or sea salt, and you can add some honey. You have 3 tastes in a drink. And you can add other things. You can even add some cayenne in it. I like to use a bit of pepper sauce like Tabasco and just 1 or 2 or 3 shakes of it so that you have 4 tastes in a drink. And that's powerful enough. All right. So taste would influence the microbiome. Now, the next thing is when over some of these things again, we'll see what I will come to end this whole session here because we are now at 6 o'clock. But the interesting, what I want to do now is to remind you of some of the techniques that we were talking about before, and that's dark energies activating, because microbiome is actually connected to dark energies. It's the source of dark energies. That's why when we said early on, and God said, let there be light, it is from the darkness comes light. It's from the divine level comes light. It's from the God level comes light. And that's why I have called the microbiome the God cells in us. And we have to start to activate them. And the most powerful way, I've given you many techniques, these exercises, but the most powerful of all of them is breathing. And I do this twice a day, every day. I sit quietly in the morning and before I go to bed, and I can easily do 2 breaths a minute and 1.5. And I always end with 1 breath in a minute as well. And a number of our patients here who have been following us for the last year, they're doing a lot of the same thing. And they're transforming their lives step by step. So you sit down with a stopwatch and you sit and start with 3 breaths a minute. If you find that is difficult, then go to 4 breaths a minute. But at 4 breaths, you will not generate dark energies from the microbiome and your cells. You will actually, just to remind you that your body cells only have a small amount of dark energies. 100% would be on a scale. If we compare it with microbiome, it will probably be about 4 out of 10. But your microbiome can produce an infinite amount of dark energies. All right. So the breathing techniques that we're talking about, reducing it to 3 breaths, that's when you first start to produce dark energies. And it's exponential. It gets even better when you go down to 2 breaths a minute. And then further, it gets even a lot more. The curve goes all the way up at 1.5 and even 1 breath a minute. So you can actually, do a lot just by the breathing technique. The second technique is really using sound, and you use your own sound. Like you take a deep breath, fill it long, and then you hum. Yesterday, I had some photographs sent to me by a patient who literally had an injury, literally almost severed her fingers, and she sent me pictures, really damaged fingers, and she did 1 hour of humming, and then sent me pictures after 1 hour. She took breaks, short breaks, every 15 minutes, and then started again. And the fingers looked almost like about 60 to 70% healed after 1 minute, just humming alone and focusing on that. So you can direct the sound that you're humming. And if you have, you can download an app, N-Track Tuner, N-Track Tuner. And you can see when you hum that you are humming a note on the musical scale and a specific frequency. But you don't have to worry too much about that. When you hum intuitively, you would find the right frequency and note for the area that you are working with. So you can work on the whole body, or you can work on different parts of your body. So that's a very powerful technique. So in some way, those are 2 techniques. And if you can sit at the same time and try pushing the sacral bone out, the chest opens naturally. Find something to do with your hands, hold it in any position. You could do this like I'm doing here. You can do this if you want, just put it on your lap. You can grasp the thumb tight and slack and hold it there. And just sit and allow the energies of the sacrum to rise up and draw the energies from above. And you'll be surprised in some months of just sitting like that a few minutes every day. You can extend the time as you go along. A transformation in yourself. The pituitary gland gets better. You get more peaceful. And at the end of the day, too, you are also, meditation is not all there is to it. To meditate means like taking medicine. You're meditating, it's a medicine. So we want to live our lives and put things in place throughout the day so that we can actually be in tune back with the source. We are the source, but we have chosen in the past, collectively, for thousands of years and thousands of years, to accept that we are disconnected. And that's why most of our prayers are now towards an object outside there, not realizing that this is the divine. And when you come to know that you are the divine, then you have to live the life of a divine person. You cannot have dark energies at a level of 8, 9, or even 10. Can you imagine you have dark energies at that level and you're not behaving, acting, thinking, and doing, that is not becoming, is not in sync with the dark energies, then the dark energies will go down again. It's like almost having fear or, negative emotions, and those will take you down again. So I urge you to go back to the 3 basic things of, as I summarize this whole thing with the microbiome, because it's all the techniques we are showing you is to get the microbiome to start working for you. Those are the God cells. They can produce all the dark energies. You just have to do a little every day. And when you do that, all these methods, you will start to get your microbiome working towards you, working in such a way that they produce more immune cells, more stem cells, more mitochondria, more friendly bacteria, all of that. We are actually at a place where we are transforming. We are at a juncture in the human history. We have the opportunity now to shift our consciousness. We haven't done this for thousands of years, and we have the opportunity now to shift our consciousness. And what we are providing, I know that every country has somebody doing something, and that's why I keep saying I prefer to focus on Trinidad, because then my focus can be total. I'm not to focus on the entire planet, because then I'll be diffuse. But in a quantum sense, if we focus on Trinidad and we move Trinidad into a higher level, then guess what happens? We influence the world in some small measure too. And if we can be doing that from everywhere, and I know somebody is in Houston right now, Kathy West, and she could be doing that, and somebody might be in England, and Sarah might be in England and doing that as well. And we all could be contributing to transforming the world and transforming ourselves at the same time. It's time that the divine is awakened inside of all of us. And it's time that we start to behave and act and think like the divine, not that it is separate from us. Why do we appear so, poor in consciousness and have to think that we have to beg outside there constantly for help? I remember reading in a book where, I think it was Out on a Limb, I believe, written by someone. And they were talking about connecting to the beings and Pleiades. And I thought at that moment, why can't we send something back into the universe? Why can't we do something? Earth starts to light up its energy, become so enlightened, not from all the lights. If you take a picture of Google Earth and look at it at night, so much lighting outside, they're all artificial lights, but the light from the inside of all the people on the planet. So that way we can help everyone to lift our consciousness and get to a higher level. And I feel we live in that time now. Let us make that next step. And I just want to say one more thing, and that is all the things that of the past have served us in a powerful way up to this point. If we want to go further, you have to be honest with yourself. You have to drop all from the past, because those techniques would have taken you only up to 4 out of 10 in darkness. That's my conclusion. I'm not criticizing anybody, not knocking anything. They have served us. They've served us. Donkey carts served us up to a point. Bicycles served us to a point. They could still work today, but we have much faster and better technologies today in the 21st century. And so what I'm saying is that these are some of the new techniques, and I have asked for this in 1999 when we finished the 20th century. I said, what do we need in the 21st century to take us to the next level of consciousness? And this is the product. These are the products that come out of that. And I'm obligated from deep inside of me to share it, because I've said before in a previous webinar, there are 2 important things in my life. The most important thing is to share, to give it, so that we can all benefit. Because if there's one person in the universe who is at a lower vibrational level, then I am also at that level. We are all one with each other. So why do we have to be selfish even in spirituality? To have something to share and not share it to the world. And so we have to get into that kind of consciousness of literally practicing. And sometimes the sharing does not have to be talking like I'm talking now. The sharing could simply be what you achieve in your life. It influences the quantum field. It changes it into a higher level, higher vibrational level. And so it will influence everybody in the world. So I'll It's a few minutes after 9. I've gone a few minutes more, but I will bring this to an end, and hopefully we have some questions or maybe some more discussions in the next 21 minutes. So thank you all for joining in, and thank you all for listening. It's a pleasure, and I feel good about all of this. I feel good about life this time as well, and it's a wonderful time to be on the planet.
Beautiful.
Yes,
Thank you, Harry. Okay, guys. So we have about 20 minutes to answer your questions. I'm going to run through the Q&A section. Just a quick note. You guys see a pop-up that just happened. We're announcing that all of the previous webinars we've had, people have asked for replays and such, and we created a platform that has free access to the membership platform for 3 days. And then there is a monthly membership after, and you have, as long as you're a member, you can have access to them, or you can buy the webinars one time and just have lifetime access. But if you click the link, it'll take you to a separate website, and you can check it out after the webinar is done. But you will get free access for 3 days, and we have a lot of great stuff coming out on that. So keep your eyes peeled. So let me go to the questions now. So, all right. So, okay. Ellis Harris said, can a critical mass of DX3 be reached so that it increases for itself?
So if I can remove this from my face here, because
Yep.
I'm trying to sort of get this out of the way. Can you remove that special offer sign there?
You have to do it on your end. I don't know how to do it on yours. But so the question is, can a critical...
I got it. So I got a question. Yes,
Okay.
The thing is that because it's something new, I think we're still learning a lot about it. And to answer the question really is that yes, there will become a critical mass level. But remember one thing, that even if you reach that critical mass level and it starts to operate, it will be operating on the people who are at the middle of the stream where the current is moving faster. And the people at the end, they will move, but they will probably still get stuck at the sides. Unfortunately, that's the way of life. So unless a person is involved in the process and really open to want to change the consciousness and start practicing, that what I'm saying is if you're a divine being, you have to start living the life of a divine being. So even if the energies get a lot higher, like I said, the dark energies increase to a level, let's say it goes up to 9 or 10 or 10 or whatever, and you start to live, because we're in a transition state, you start to go back into the negative emotions, you start to become, fearful, and you start to become, angry and upset with things around you, then what you're doing is literally going back into enfolding of that dark energy back into its hiding. So yes, you can reach a critical mass, but it will also be important to understand that once you want to participate, it's all for free. You just have to start living your life in a different way, or I should say in a certain way.
And with the DX, okay, so Aston had a question. What is the DX3 measurement and indicator of? You reference a scale of up to 10.
Yeah. So we most of what we measure in our practice is on a scale from 0 to 10. When we look for medicines, it's always at the infinite level because the medicines come at that level. In fact, all our medicines now are all activating dark energies. So that's the technology we apply. So we're not giving medicine anymore, that does not relate to dark energies. It's all connected. So DX3, all the algorithms we are using are based on that, actually.
Okay. And then Yogan said death starts in the gut. Is that correct?
Well, to a large extent, yes, because what happens is that's where the watershed is. The consciousness with these 5 microbiomes and the 5 areas that I mentioned, they are downloading via the vagus nerves and other parts of the autonomic nervous system into the gut. And so the gut bacteria starts to change, and eventually enough arsenic is, being produced in a quantity that will trigger death, or it can get into such a level that it becomes, I'll tell you what, when something becomes 0, it's also the infinite level. So when the informational aspect of arsenic gets to the zero, in a sense, it also is at the infinite level, and that's where two extremes. So just to mention, when we lift our consciousness to the highest level that we can go, we become zero. That's why I was urging people that things of the past, what we learned, the programs that we have been using from the past, we need to let go and let go and let go. And when we are empty, which is zero, then you are the infinite. It's all at the same time.
Awesome. And then Robert had a question.
By taking arsenic in one dose at the new moon time each month, what you're doing is reminding the cells and priming the cells in the body, the microbiome, so that it does not get towards the death phase. That's why I'm saying if you want to remove 3Ds, disease, degeneration, and death, you can use that as an option.
Yes. And you guys offer both the homeopathic mercury and the arsenic one, right?
They all would be made not in the old ways of dilution. We are using algorithms to create them.
Okay, so it's a vibrational thing. Okay,
so it's a new way of making the homeopathic. We're using right spin and creating the remedies out of algorithms.
Robert had a great question because I'm sure a lot of people have had this question. This is when you talked earlier about mitochondria. Robert says, "What is mitochondria?"
Well, these are cell organelles in the cells. They are actually they're called the cell energy factories as well. So energies are generated within they also store energies. So when you're born, you probably got up to maybe 500 mitochondria per cell, and you have a lot of energies, and that continues. As we grow older, these mitochondria may get smaller. They may also get less and less in size and numbers. And what happens is that the amount of mitochondria, starts to disappear. There are a lot of chemical reactions occurring in mitochondria. Don't want to go into all the biochemical details, but actually they generate. There's a basic molecule called adenosine monophosphate, AMP, and by adding phosphorylation, each one is a bond, an energy bond. It goes to ADP, diphosphate, and then a triphosphate, ATP. And some people might know ATP. And then that is how energy is stored. Now, breaking one bond, you release a whole lot of energy. Breaking another one releases a whole lot more energies, and so on. So the mitochondria is very critical. In fact, there's a lot. You can Google mitochondria and look at it. It's basically what they said that they come from the plant kingdom, actually. But we are the whole universe. We're the minerals, the plants, the animals as well.
And then Bernadette had a question about using solfeggio rhythms, those different tones that.
Well, I feel they're all very important. Lots of good music available. Music is sound, and whatever helps to lift your emotions. There are lots of good music. In fact, a whole repertoire of music that we can use. And people would find music that would be helpful for them. People would find music to help them to meditate, to slow down and become peace and calm. And there are music that would energize you as well. So all these solfeggios, I have used them. I have used them in the past. I don't really use them a lot now. More and more, I'm creating my own sounds, because I think that your bodies can generate the sounds, so you're becoming self-sufficient. Just as much as we all look for food to bring energies in, can we generate more dark energies and allow the the friendly bacteria in your gut to start producing food? And also, I'll tell you what, dark energies, the whole universe, all the elements in the periodic table came from dark energies. So out of nothingness comes something, all these elements. And when these elements come together, they form the physical world. So if you're generating enough dark energies, the body will find a way to generate material to build the body and to construct new cells and literally rejuvenate, regenerate organs too. So all of that comes from the dark energy.
Shari had a question. So the sacrum bone generates dark energies?
Yes, yeah. Okay. That's in traditional yoga, it's called the Kundalini. And there's a polarity about it. It's called the Kundalini Shakti, which is like they refer to as like the feminine, and from above you have the masculine, and the two are meeting together. And when the two come together, there's a collapse of polarities, and then you enter into the zero state in the third ventricle. And that is what is transforming the human body as well.
Fascinating. So Indira had a question. I don't necessarily understand it, but maybe you do. Can you expand on the Sella turcica,
Turcica,
Turcica?
Sella turcica. It's a simpler membrane. If you look at the skull from the inside, if you take the top of the skull and look at it from the inside, you would see the sphenoid bone, which is connected to all the other skull bones. And you'd have, where I showed the slides, where you have the little cave where the pituitary gland goes into that. Like this is the pituitary gland goes into that. So there's a space there, there's a membrane called the Sella turcica. And the pituitary gland is inside that space. So the membrane is called the Sella turcica.
Okay.
If you can Google that as well. You can find that on the internet. You can see diagrams of it and look at it.
So Joan had a question. The spin system, is it referring to the Merkaba system around the energy field of the body?
Well, I have not done a lot of research. I mean, I do have the Merkaba in a crystal form inside a crystal, and we have been looking at that. But I think it's all of these things carry spin. Spin is in everything. When water flows, it goes in a spin. Water is not going in a linear fashion. When blood is ejected from your heart, it is not in a linear way. It's in a spin. It's a spiral. If you flush toilet, it goes in a spiral. But again, depending on which side of the equator. But at the end of the day, spin on the left spin, it is positive and good for you. Spin on the right spin is negative. But sometimes we need medicines. Don't forget. And the way medicines work is actually by like curing like. When you get a vaccine, I'll tell you, the vaccine is virus, and all vaccine would be a right spin. But if you get a tiny bit of virus in your body, then your body will initiate a response to that and create antibodies and so on. So that's how it works. So we do need both sides. One side is medicine, one side is food.
And the Ishtara medicines, they put a right spin or a left spin on it?
Well, the thing is that we do use right spin medicines in the practice, like homeopathy, but that is a limited amount. But most of the medicine, I would say probably 90% of our medicines are all zero spin, which is really activating the dark energies at a cellular level.
Okay, Divya was asking what to take the day, for the new moon. There's a day before, on the new moon, and the day after. What were we taking on those?
You take arsenicum album. Arsenic is a homeopathic remedy. And if she's in Trinidad, if Divya lives in Trinidad, then you can get it from Ishtara. And if you buy a bottle, then that will last a long time because only one dose, and everybody in the family can get a dose at new moon. But if you miss the new moon day, you could take it the day after, or if you forgot, and take it the day before. So you have a 3-day window for that. The mercury on the other hand.
Go ahead about the mercury. I was going to ask about the mercury, so go ahead.
Okay, the mercury on the other hand is a poisonous substance, but at a level where it's informational, it activates the third eye area. So we're talking about awareness, intuition, and so on. And that can be used at the time of full moon.
Okay, so one is new moon, arsenic, full moon, mercury, right. both in the informational.
Think of the full moon as working on the intuition, and that's mercury.
Okay. And then Esther had a question. I believe the answer is yes, but can you confirm if apple seeds are arsenic?
Apple seeds, I think, is it arsenic?
I think they contain
cyanide, I think.
Yeah, one of the
I don't remember, but I think it's a poisonous substance. But remember, I'll tell you what, for some people, it may be so small that it's okay, because I'll tell you, we all have cyanide in our bodies, even though it's deadly poisonous. I'll tell you where it's found. Every molecule of vitamin B12 is cyanocobalamin. So it has a molecule, an ion of cyanide in every molecule. It's called cyanocobalamin. So CNN, right? So if you get tiny bits in apple seeds or in apricot seeds, then it will be working as medicine. And people have suggested the use of apricot seeds, which carries the same type of molecule, the cyanide molecule, I think, for cancer and so on. I I don't know if it works or not, but I've read that.
Okay. Let's see. We have about 6 more minutes, guys. Anthony was asking, how long do you have to stand on the plate? I think he's talking with the Lifetrons plate.
Okay, if you have a Lifetron plate, it's up to you. It's how much time you have available. If you have 10 minutes, you can use 10 minutes. If you are doing some of these other exercises and it will take you 10, 15 minutes to do the exercises that you have, then you can stand on the plate and do it if you have a plate like that, the Lifetron plate. So it's up to you. If you have 3 minutes and that's all you have, that's okay. Just remember your objective is to continue to grow. And as you continue to grow, you will have also longevity and the body will be reversing the aging process too. So you have a long time on the planet. Don't rush. Slow down, peace and calm.
Gangadai, I'm not sure to say it. Forgive me if I said it wrong.
Gangadai.
Okay. Can you use Himalayan salt?
Of course, I said rock salt.
Okay.
I mentioned you can use, I don't like to call brand names, but Himalayan rock salt is good to use, the pink Himalayan or the white Himalayan, and any form of sea salt like Celtic sea salt or whatever. But they also have in South America salt coming from the mountains, because all these salts that we are talking about, their rock salts are actually from the mountains. And we have purchased salt from the Andes as well in the past.
Okay. Can you suggest something specifically for long-term muscle tension? Many thanks if you can.
Muscle tension.
Long-term muscle tension.
I'm trying to work out in my mind what you mean by muscle. Is it cramping situations?
I'm guessing they mean cramping, yeah.
Well, there are two things. So one you need to do is if you could balance all the microbiomes in your body, like a simple drink which contains rock salt or sea salt and some honey and apple cider vinegar and so on in water, would enhance all of the mineral activities in the body, as well as provide release in the muscles too. But you can also, the various exercises that we're doing and even breath will eventually take care of that.
Okay.
If there's a more chronic problem, then I think the person may need to see a doctor and find out exactly what. But if you do the breathing and slow down the breathing to, let's say, 3 breaths a minute, if you can. Now, I tell people, all my patients and people I talk to, if you can do 3 breaths, try it. If it's difficult, go to 4 and practice. And when you get good at it, then come back to 3, and then you'll find it's easier. But all these techniques are all healing techniques.
And then, thank you, Harry. And then what exercises are particularly good for endocrine disorders?
All right. If you can work on the pituitary gland, that's very interesting. The pituitary gland is the master gland, controls all the other hormonal glands. If you do the breathing, all the techniques I'm giving you, all of them, including humming as well. If you sit with the pelvic bone out, the chest is open, and you sit and breathe, and there's the breathing with the sitting, and if you choose to hum, they all would influence, because I mentioned to you that the sacral bone is generating an energy that goes all the way up. And it influences the 7 chakras. And each chakra is connected to a hormonal gland. Like the throat is connected to the thyroid, the base chakra is connected to the adrenal glands, and so on. The sacral is connected to the sex gland. So all the exercises are doing a lot for the entire body. So if you start picking on individual areas, then you're looking at a specific zone. But what I would like people to start looking at is the whole self rather than the part. That would be a better way to go about life. And just continue to practice and look at your overall health rather than a single area. But if you also have a problem in a particular zone, a particular endocrine gland, you can put your hands in that area where the hand and the mind goes. While you're humming, the sound goes in that zone, is directed in that zone. Like, for instance, I've said before that if you want to work on your heart, it's on the left side, remember? And you take a deep breath and you hum. And your mind and your hands they're all focused on their heart, and that's where the energy goes.
Beautiful. Okay, Joan is asking, the zero level can be achieved via the Ho'oponopono mantra. Is this correct?
Well, just repeat that again. I missed something.
So the first that she was saying, the zero level, I assume she
Yes.
means no spin or
Yes.
divine consciousness, can be achieved via Ho'oponopono.
Well, the thing is that even what I found, and I said this before, and I said it many times, people who have been practicing a lot of different techniques. Now, I have not had the opportunity to test a lot of people practicing that method. All right. So I cannot give you a really good answer to it. But if you're practicing that technique and you're getting results, then it must be working. What I have found is that most people that I've tested in Trinidad, practicing a whole range of things, I was quite surprised that the readings were never above 4, the dark energies, DX3, and that led me to think, well, is it possible that some of these techniques are from the ancient times and worked at that time, and now we're bringing them back into the modern time, and it's not really necessary for that in the modern time? So I cannot give you, I'm just making a statement there, but I'm not saying that it is good or bad because I don't have enough people practicing that. 1 or 2 people who I had found who were practicing that, I still did not find their energy levels. I mean, what I do in the practice is I could put you to breathe for 2 minutes, at 3 breaths a minute, and I can see a big shift from, let's say, 2 to 6 or 7. It makes a big difference. That's why I'm teaching these techniques. If you practice, you see a change immediately. I've seen patients coming and they cross their arms and their legs and they do 5 breaths. And they sit after that and they tell me, 100% of them, I feel different. There is a change. And when we test them, the dark energies go all the way up, sometimes 8 or 9, by just doing 5 breaths alone. So I'm focused on what works. Now, I'm not saying that another person in some other place is practicing that and working. If it's working, then that's great.
That's awesome. Okay, so this will be the last question, Harry. So it's from Megan. We hear so much about the pineal gland. Does any of your work focus on that gland or mostly the pituitary?
No, the pineal gland is very important. All the techniques, we have tested the pineal gland and all the techniques that we do, and they're all the same. At the end of the day, what I've done is we have looked at the pineal gland. A simple way, if you get a peacock's feather, it has indigo blue and it has lighter blue around it. That resonates 100% with the pineal gland. All right. So I have one and I laminate it. I cut it in such a way that I can laminate it and I can use that for testing the pineal gland. And when we look at all these techniques, remember the pineal gland is related back to the crown chakra. Each, pituitary goes at the brow chakra and the pineal at the other one. So all the techniques we are doing is covering actually all the hormonal glands. So at the end of the day, we don't have to get too bogged down by pituitary, pineal, all these things. It's the pituitary gland is important because the pituitary gland also feeds back information to the entire body, including the pineal gland as well. And I'll tell you what, if you generate enough dark energies, even if you sleep in darkness, your pineal gland gets stimulated. In the modern world, we have so much lightings around us. You better go and get curtains that would black out everything when you go to sleep. Because if you leave windows open, you would see the amount of lighting coming into the room. And the more darkness we have, the greater stimulus for the pineal gland to produce all its hormones like melatonin and so on.
Beautiful. Thank you, Harry. Okay, so guys, we're going to close off. We are a few minutes over. I apologize for being cut minutes over, but that's the way things go sometimes. So thank you for watching. As a quick reminder, tonight we are launching the Vitality Academy. So what this is I'm partnering up with, I have done webinars with Dr. Nilash, but now we're kind of just doing more and more, but with Harry and everything. So what we're doing is
the last one for a while.
It might be the last one for a while. So there you go. But we always get questions for replays and all that. So what we've done is you have a couple options. You can have a permanent access, lifetime access, watch whenever you want. The investment in TT is $150 for some of them, $200 for another, or you can just join the membership and you get 3 days for free, and then it's 120 TT a month. You'll get access to all of the old webinars in that, as well as we're going to do a podcast. We're going to have a 1-hour Q&A once a month, and basically continually giving you more and more content, and it'll kind of become a growing library. So you should have the link, and I'll get an email out to everyone the next day or so as well, so you can check that out, because we do get a lot of requests for the replays. So that's a great way to get it. Doesn't cost you anything. If you want to go beyond the 3 days, we'd love to have you in the membership. I can see that being 20, 30 people here very quickly. But thank you for your time. Thank you, Dr. Harry. It's been wonderful. And for everyone, enjoy the rest of your weekend. We will see you next time we have a webinar. Take care.
I've completed my triad of webinars for the while, and I think it comes to a close. I think maybe if we have to do something in the future, John, is probably be just showing all the techniques for, enhancing the dark energies, and we just do techniques, teaching people that. I think that's important. We
That'd
put
be
all
great.
together, and that
Awesome.
we'll take a break. We take a break and take some deep breaths and do some dark energy stuff, and then we come back again. So bye, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Harry.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye.